Hi guys, welcome to Mentor, yet another video podcast. I hope you're all doing great as always. So, today I have probably the most anticipated video podcast so far. So, what I'm going to tackle today is the one that I have been getting the most questions of out of all categories throughout the last 3 months while I've been doing this. And it's how to succeed on an airline interview, how to succeed with your tests for getting into an airline, what to think of, hints, and so on. So, first of all, I am going to tell you to stay on to the end. All right, I'll be giving you my points of view throughout this, and also some of the research that I've been doing. So it's crucial that you stay on to the end to get the most out of this video. All right. Second of all, I'm going to tell you that I haven't done many of these myself. I did the one that I was successful in, and I'm in the airline that I have been for the last 13 years. So I haven't done a lot of different ones myself. However, I have friends who have done quite a few of them, and I'm also talking to people that are involved in the process. And also, this is very important to say, I'm not going to give you any magical key here, okay? There is no magical key on how to get through these things, but there are quite a few things that you can do to prepare yourself. And since I am actually part of the training organization myself, I'm not going to give you specific hints to get into my particular airline, okay? Because you are going to have to succeed just like anyone else in the selection process. But how you do that, how you get in through the selection process is going to be largely up to you. And it's how you prepare to get in that's going to make the difference between if you do it or if you don't, okay? So basically, airline interviews are like any other job interviews. In order to get to the interview in the first place, you have to apply for the job. So if you have your licenses, you're fresh out of school, I would tell you to apply for as many positions as possible. Okay, any job that you're willing to take, that's also important. Do not apply for jobs that you are not going to say yes to. That's kind of a golden rule. Never apply for a job that you're not willing to take. But do, in the beginning, apply for every job that you're willing to take and that you have the hours and suitability for. Okay, you can go into the websites of the different airlines. They will tell you exactly what you need, every single point that you need in order to apply. And if you can tick all those boxes, then send in an application. Now, some airlines, they actually charge you for sending in an application. I know some of you don't like that. I've been getting some of that feedback. However, I would strongly suggest that you do it anyway. Because if you've spent 100,000 euros on your training, what is another 50 euros for an application, really? I mean, if that's going to get you into that jetliner, it's not that big of a deal. At least that's my opinion on it. Okay, so apply. Apply for all of the jobs you can. Very, very important. Then you wait, okay? The selection process for who comes to an interview or not is kind of like a tombola. It's impossible to say why some of your classmates are being called, but you are not being called, but you might be called the next month or so. So just chill, keep sending those applications in. And if you do have some contacts, networking is really important in this business. So if you do have contacts and those contacts can bring you in, then please use all the contacts that you might have. Some airlines have a policy where they don't allow employees to cater or to take in their own contacts. There are equal opportunities, employers it's called, where you're not allowed to canvas. In this case, if you do have a friend that's trying to get you into that airline, that might actually make you usable for that airline because you have been canvassed in. So be careful with that. Always check if the airline has one of those non-canvas policies or not before you start pulling those strings that you might have. But do apply. Okay, that's number one. Apply for as many jobs as you're eligible for. So then you get that letter, that precious letter from the employer saying that we would like you to come for an interview with us. Now, here is where you start to, if you haven't already, you have to start preparing, okay? First of all, if you go for any kind of airline interview and go for any kind of job interview, whether it is working for McDonald's or working for British Airways, you'll have to look the part, okay? So you want to make sure that you have a nice suit, that you have, it doesn't have to be expensive, it just have to suit you, you just have to look good, okay? Make sure that you are well groomed, that you look the part, basically, because obviously, you know, the interviewers are people. They are going to make a snap judgment of you when you walk in through the door. You want to make sure that that judgment is a good one. So make sure that you look the part, okay? That goes for anything. Even in interviews for jobs within an airline that you work for, you still have to make sure that you are looking good, because you're showing respect for the employers by showing that you really want a job and looking good. So then once you're in, different airlines have different test batteries, okay? So some airlines have several days of tests that you need to go through. That includes psychometric testings. It might include group exercises. It will definitely include an interview, and it will probably be a simulator test at some part as well, okay? If we start by psychometric testing. So what are psychometric testings? There is a lot of information available on the internet when it comes to this. You just have to type in psychometric testing in Google, and you'll get a lot of different websites that you go into. Basically, two types of psychometric testings. It's your personality tests. You will almost always get a personality test, and that can be done online, or in some cases it's done in paper form when you're in on the day for the interview. The personality tests, they tend to be questions that doesn't have a right or wrong answer to it. So it might be questions where, you know, you get questions like, so choose one. Do you prefer staying at home reading a book or go out to a party? Right? There's no right or wrong question or answer to that. Or do you prefer being sent out into a war zone, or B, staying with the general population in a shelter? You know, like, it will indicate something in your personality. Normally it's extremes in your personality, okay? And it's generally very, very hard to choose these questions. Now, my tip here is that, first of all, practice these tests online. Go out, do a couple of them. And I don't mean practice as to try to find the right answers, because the answers, what's the right answer in one airline might be the wrong answer in a different airline. So go out and practice them for you to feel confident or comfortable with the way that the questions are being asked, so that you're not being surprised by the format as such. So just do a few so that you know what kind of questions to expect, okay? And then, and this is the single most important tip I have, answer honestly. Whatever you feel when you read the question, you tick the one that you feel most for, okay? Because they are built, generally there are hundreds of these questions, and they will all indicate towards a certain personality type. And the airlines, they choose what kind of personality types they like, okay, depending on what kind of operation to have and so on. So just be as honest as possible, and they will find out throughout those 200 questions, they will find out what kind of personality you are. So just be honest, tick the one that you feel is correct, and if you don't understand the question, you skip that question, okay? So just continue, work through that one. Do not try to second guess what you think the airline wants. Just put in what you think, what you want, and that will then show the airline what kind of personality type you are. And it's really important, okay? So that's the one type, that's the personality test. The second part of the psychometric testing tends to be aptitude and ability tests. And this is what people are mostly nervous about when you're going in for interviews, okay? So there are different types of aptitude tests. You might have a verbal tests, you might have numerical tests, you would probably have those ones. Spatial reasoning. Now, spatial reasoning, that's tests that will indicate how you perceive the environment around you. So can you read a map? Can you see which pictures are kind of mirror images of each other? Can you see what would fit into a box and what wouldn't fit into a box? It's things like that. And the spatial reasoning tests, they tend to test a lot of things, including your logical thinking, including your mathematical skills, stuff like that. So they are really important. And also there might be job-specific tests. Now, I did job-specific tests myself. I was put into what was called the NAS test, which was me sitting sweating for 4 hours inside of a box, which simulated different aviation scenarios, mathematical reasoning tests and things on different screens, okay? The only thing you can do here is try to do this to the best of your capability. Now, in order to prepare yourself for these tests, I would say go out and do as many online tests as possible, okay? Look for psychometric testing, look for aptitude and ability tests, and you'll find a complete horde of these tests available online. Do as many as possible of them. Because these things you will not, the more you do them, the more familiar you will be with the way that they're done. You will see that there will be, like complete the series test where you have 3 different images and you're supposed to choose what the next image should be after those 3 out of maybe 4 different alternatives. There are things like that. There are mathematical skills tests. These tests generally are done on time as well. So do them, work through them in a brisk pace, but an accurate way. Okay. Don't try to guess what the correct answer is if you don't know. Practice them, as I've said, and also, and this is very, very important now. Read the instructions to the test carefully before you start. All right. I can't emphasize this enough. Before you start the test, make sure that you read the instructions, because sometimes the instruction might be the key to solving the whole test. All right. So read the instructions carefully, work through it accurately, briskly, practice as many you can before you go to the interview, and don't try to guess the correct answers if you don't know. All right. So here you can actually improve by practicing. So I would suggest that before you start even applying for airlines, start doing a few of these. Just do 1 a day or do a couple of weeks or something like that in order to just get that type of thinking going. So those are the different types of psychometric tests. There might be others out there that I haven't heard about as well, but this is the gist. It's what they're trying to do here is weeding out people that are not suitable for the particular airline, so specific personality type, and also people that might lack the ability that is needed in order to go through the course. Okay, so that's psychometric testing. That's generally done on day 1. Then, if you pass this test, you're generally sent in for an airline interview. Now, the interview here. You will also find loads and loads of information on the internet on what's right and wrong to do at an interview. I would say just use your common sense when it comes to the interview, okay? So the airline will want to employ people that they are able to train, okay? So that you have the ability to take in the information that is given to you and apply it. So they want to make sure that they're not taking in someone who will not be able to go through a type rating, for example. So when you go into the interview, as I said before, make sure you're well dressed. I would also take any papers that you might need, so your CVs, your school leaving certificates, your licenses, nicely copied and in a folder to make sure that you have them available in case they would ask for them, right? I will make sure to know the airline that I'm applying to. So read up what you can on the airline before you go for the interview. Check what kind of fleets they have, what type of operation they're doing. Are they flying long haul? Are they flying a mix of long haul and short haul and medium haul? Maybe they're doing cargo. What kind of, how many cargo planes do they have versus the normal personal jetliners? What kind of operation do they do? So because you might get questions about this, like what you like on certain parts of the company and stuff. You might not too, but it's always good to know what kind of airline that you're going into when you're going into an interview process, right? Second of all, make sure that you know your own aircraft type. So the types that you have been flying so far, it might not, you might not think that it's important when it comes into doing an interview for flying a Boeing 737. However, for the interviewer to understand whether or not you know what you have done so far, that you've learned what you've done so far, they're likely to ask you questions about, so what's the Diamond like? What's the Cessna like? So what kind of flaps does the Cessna have? Does it have Fowler flaps? What kind of flaps does it use? Can you tell me a little bit about the handling characteristics of it? So what kind of speeds are you using during the base leg and final with different flap settings? Things like that. Just know what you're doing so far, because it's likely that they will ask you questions about it, and they just want to see that you have a good comprehension of what you have learned so far in your training, because that's a good indication of if you are going to be able to adapt and learn the next part, which is going to be the training for the airline. So also be honest. This goes for the whole interview process and all the tests, be honest, okay? The interviewees, they want to know, like I've said before, if you can go through the training. That's number one. Number two is this person likely to be able to take a command later on? Because most airlines, they don't employ first officers, they employ potential captains. So they want to make sure that they get personality types that are, good, assertive, knows their shit, and also, and this is really, really crucial, they are employing future colleagues. All right, I can't overstate the importance of that. They're important. They are employing people that they will sit and work with, that they might have to sit during a 12-hour days with storms all over Europe, and they have to work with this person. So you have to be likable, not fake likable, but you have to be open, honest, being able to keep a conversation up, and just show good common sense. That's what you're looking for. A nice person, just like you would if you would be employing, let's say that you had your own company and you wanted to employ a future workmate. What would you like that person to be like? Okay, think of that and work on that. That's what they want. They want to be able to laugh with you. You should be able to tell a joke when it's appropriate. It's normal things like this. I know it's really hard when you're very, very nervous, but really just try to relax and think about the person interviewing you as another colleague, as a friend of yours, that's asking you relevant questions about the future job. That's the way to think about it. Relaxed and in a good and professional manner, okay? It might be a good idea, and I'm saying might here because it's not always, to check with other people who've done interviews before to see what the format is like. However, I am personally a little bit against being biased when you go into interviews, because generally, depending on who is doing the interview is slightly different. If you go out on internet and you search for interviews for this particular airline, you might get answers that people think were good and people think were bad, but you don't really know. And something that I really want to emphasize is do not use canned answers. Canned answers, that's answers that people give when they think that the interviewee or interviewer want to hear a specific thing, but it doesn't actually answer the question. Those kind of answers just will make you look stupid, okay? It's not good. You want to give an honest answer, and if you don't know, you say that you don't know. It's as easy as that. You don't want to try to bullshit your way through, because remember, this guy or girl who's doing the interview is likely to have seen thousands of people like you before, and they've heard the same answers being repeated over and over again. It's more likely that they will remember you if you get a unique, honest answer to a question than if you're saying that the reason you want to be a pilot is because you have dreamt about that since you were a small kid. Maybe they want to hear, I think that will give me the best future prospects. I really like the way that this airline gives the possibility to be based in a specific place where I can have a good family life, and I think that this is, give something that you actually think, not something that you think that they want to hear. This is very important, because a lot of people forget this when they go into the interview process. But that's it. Use your common sense. Make sure that you're well prepared, that you know your current aircrafts, what you've done before in your training, and just answer honestly to the questions that you get, okay? Now, then there might be group exercises as well. So this is something that some of the major airlines uses in order to just see how you work in a group environment. Some airlines have cocktail parties, which are part of the actual selection process to see how you interact in a group. And some airlines have actual group exercises where you get in together with other people applying for the same job, and you get an exercise to complete. Here, it's once again, it's very hard to say what's the correct thing to do, okay? But it's likely that you will be getting a piece of information, for example, that you're supposed to share with the rest of the group. And then you'll be getting a problem, and you work your way through the group, and everyone presents their own opinion, their own fact. Now, it's important here to show that you are both willing to listen to the rest of the group, to take in the information of the rest of the group, and also that you can advocate your own information in a good way. Because it's being monitored, they probably want to see a person that is very good at communicating and very good at working together with the rest of the group, and does not kind of take over the group, but doesn't stay silent in a corner either. So it's hard. I would just try to do your best, just if you have a piece of information, share it, discuss with the others, try to solve the puzzle or the problem that you have received in as good of a way as you can, and then the result will come out of that. There's no way of knowing that you have to do this, you have to say that. No, you just have to do the best you can, and hopefully that will be good enough for you to get through that. It's the same with the cocktail party. Have fun, meet up, speak to people, talk about, do not take over the group, do not make, that don't get drunk, just use your common sense and act like you would in any social environment, and that should be good, right? So as you can see, there are, it's mostly fluent. There's no like right or wrong things, and you don't want to look for right or wrong answers here either, because that's not what this is about. Remember that the whole point of doing an airline interview is for the airline to establish whether you are right for that airline or right for that job. So when you're trying to game the system, that won't help neither you, because you might find yourself in a job that you're not actually capable of doing, or the airline, because they might employ someone who shouldn't really be there. Okay, so be well prepared, all the paperwork ready, well dressed, well suited. You know your own previous training, you know what you should do, your own ETPL exams and stuff should be fairly recent in your memory anyway. You know the airline that you're going into, so you can answer intelligently on any questions they might have, like what kind of base would you like, things like that. But generally, just make sure that you're well rested and that you've eaten a nutritious meal before, okay? Don't go there without having slept the day before or without having a good breakfast and stuff, because you'll need the sugar in your system in order to perform well. It goes through all of your training later on as well, but definitely for the interview. And get yourself a nice sleep, That's it. I know it's really hard. I know you're going to be nervous and stuff, but it's not the end of the world. You're going to have, if you fail on one, you're going to have more airline interviews coming up. So, and if any airline interview that you go through is going to be a great experience for you. So if the airline says no thank you at the end of it, at least you have one more interview in your pocket. So next time you go into an interview, you will be more confident about what's coming, and you'll hopefully be less nervous. That's the way to look at it. And I hope this has been helpful. Sending questions, but as I said, most of the information is out there on the internet. Do practice the psychometrical testings, because that will make you at least feel a little bit more at ease about the tests when they come in the interview. And best of luck. I hope that you're all successful in whatever endeavor that you do. It's great to have you here, and see you next time.